Rama, Okay, so we're going to read from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. So I know that they have a series of different verses that they look at. So we are on verse chapter 2, text number 41. So I'll just, how many of you are here for the first time? Just raise your hands. Okay, maybe one or two, but mostly everyone's used to being here. So we'll just do it in this way. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the Bhagavad Gita as it is one of the oldest literatures known to humankind. In a world where we have so much information, there's something that's required to balance that. The thing that balances information is wisdom. You see? So we have a world full of information, and in order to bring the balance for human civilization, we need wisdom. This Bhagavad Gita is the balance. Why is it the balance? It's the balance because it teaches us to separate the noise from the signal. We have two voices that go on inside us. One voice is the noise. The noise is the sound of the mind. And the mind is like a sponge. It absorbs the sound of the environment. So in us, we have one voice, which is the noise of the mind. But there is something more powerful than the sound of our minds. More powerful than the sound of the mind is the spiritual sound. Inside every one of us, we have a spiritual guide called the Paramatma. The Paramatma is also called the Super Soul. And just like when you want to achieve anything in life, you're able to achieve it so much more powerfully and effectively if you have a guide. If you have a guide who's been on that journey already. If you have a guide who understands the subject that you're trying to master. And if you have a guide who's a very affectionate and loving well-wisher of yourself, then when you take that guidance, you're able to achieve your goal so much faster, so much easier, so much more joyfully. So we need a guide for two things. We need a guide for love, and we need a guide for life. And we need a guide who will help us to love life. That guide is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is sitting in our hearts. And there's a secret to this Bhagavad Gita as it is. In fact, there are many secrets to this Bhagavad Gita as it is. Here is one. When we listen and read attentively from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, it actually allows you to hear the voice of the Lord in the heart more clearly. Do you know why? Because the same Lord who speaks in the pages of the Bhagavad Gita, the same Lord who gave the teachings to Arjuna, is the same Lord who exists within the heart of every single living entity. So there's a secret that is practically unknown to the vast majority of human civilization at this time. When you turn up and tune into the voice of the Bhagavad Gita, you simultaneously turn up and tune into the voice of your conscience. You turn up and tune into the voice of your deep spiritual intuition. And you turn up and tune in to the voice that will lead you to your greatest fortune and your greatest ecstasy. So let's hear that voice now. So we're reading from the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and we're reading from verse number 41. So what I will do is I will read the Sanskrit, which is the original language in which the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. I'll read the translation, the English translation, and then we will read the purport, and then we will discuss. But bearing in mind what we said already, if you listen carefully to this Bhagavad Gita in your life, you'll find that you'll be able to tune in to your inner guide more effectively. And that inner guide follows you through all situations of life, always trying to give us the very best direction for the very best outcomes in our life. So this teaching is transformative. So, Krishna says to Arjuna, Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana bahushakya hyanantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. So the translation by His Divine Grace, that translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So this is Krishna speaking to Arjuna. He says, those who are on this path, that means the path of Krishna consciousness, are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, that's Krishna talking about Arjuna, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. Purport. A strong faith that by Krishna consciousness, that means loving devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life, is called Vyavasayatmika intelligence. The Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 22 verse 62 states, Chaitanya Charitamrita is a literature in Krishna consciousness which talks about the pastimes of the Lord who came 500 years ago, called Lord Chaitanya. It says, Shraddha Shabde Vishvas Kahe Sudrida Nischaya Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sava Kama Kritahaya. Translation. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, All activities are on the absolute plane, for they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Teachings have to be transformative. This is really important. Krishna spoke this verse to Arjuna. Arjuna is a great warrior. He spoke the verse to him on the battlefield, a place called Kurukshetra. But even though this knowledge was spoken over 5,000 years ago, it is as relevant, if not even more relevant today than it was when he spoke it. Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest enemy that we have is inside of us. Think about that point. The biggest enemy that we have is inside us. Here, Krishna alludes to how to deal with that internal enemy. He says, those who are on the path of Krishna consciousness are resolute in purpose, meaning they've got one focus. Have you ever noticed that in the modern world, it's increasingly difficult to be focused? Have you ever noticed that? Yes or no? Yes. We live in a social media age, and there is a battle. There's a battle to capture your focus and your attention. They sometimes call this the attention economy. How does this work? The way that business works is very simple. They understand that if we can capture people's attention, in other words, if I can get you to keep coming to my particular website or my particular app, if I can keep capturing your attention, then I can go to the business people and I can say, I've managed to capture this audience. They keep giving me their attention. If you pay me, you can put your adverts on my platform, where this group of people who are addicted to my platform will keep coming. And because they keep coming, they'll keep seeing your advertisements, and then they'll keep buying your products. So we have an enemy within. And that enemy within is the conditioned mind. Krishna therefore tells Arjuna, Chanchala hi mana Krishna. Actually, Arjuna tells Krishna. He said the mind is chanchala. Chanchala means flickering, very difficult to control. And this verse that we're reading, this verse, if we understand the power of this one verse, if we understand the wisdom of this one verse, and if we understand the application of this one verse, I can guarantee you that your entire life will change for the better. This verse is giving everyone who hears the verse a gift. It gives everyone who hears the verse a very simple but extremely life-changing methodology that will give you the gift of self-mastery through mind mastery. What does Krishna say here? He talks about one who has an intelligence which is resolute. That means that they are able to be one-pointed in their focus. We fail to achieve things in life, material or spiritual, to the extent that we're not able to do this, to be one-pointed. There was a man who was digging for gold. And what happened was he'd received some guidance that if you dig in one place, you'll get some gold. So he started to dig in that spot for gold. Someone came up to him and they said to him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm digging for gold." And they said, "Why are you digging there for?" He said, "I was told that this is where the gold is." And he said, "Oh yeah, if you want gold, you should dig over that place instead." The man stopped digging where he was originally digging, and he went to another spot and started digging there for gold. Later on, another person came and said, "What are you doing?" So I'm digging for gold. He said, "What are you digging there for?" So if you want gold, you should dig over this side. So the man stopped digging where he was digging, and he went somewhere else and started digging for gold. This kept happening. Different people, different strangers, they kept coming up to the man. "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm digging for gold." They said, "What are you digging there for? You should dig over here. That's where you'll get the gold." Eventually, the person who had originally given him the guidance to where to dig, the person who had first told him, "If you want gold, dig here," that person came back. And when he came back, he saw all these holes all over the land. So he came to the man and said, "What's going on? What's happened?" And the man said, "I'm digging for gold." And he said, "But I told you to dig over here. Where did all these holes come from?" And the man said to him, "Yeah, different people came up to me and they all gave me different advice. So that's why I started digging in all these different places." And the person who had given him the original advice told him, "If you'd have stuck to my instruction, and if you had just stayed digging in the first place that I showed you, you would have struck gold by now." We are like that man. Our intelligence, as it says here, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. Our intelligence goes in 1,000 different directions. There was a study done by one university. And what they did, the students who were going to leave the university that year, they filled in a survey questionnaire. Before they left the university, they were asked a range of different questions. One of the questions that they were asked is, how many of you have a habit of setting yourself regular, realistic, achievable goals? That year at that university, only 3% of the students answered yes to that question. Only 3% of the students said, "Yes, I have a habit of setting myself regular, realistic, achievable goals." 25 years later, the same university did a follow-up study of all those students who had completed that survey. They'd all became older, working, had families, etc. So the university reached out to those students again and asked them, did a follow-up survey just to see how they were doing in life. They found something amazing. They found that the 3% of students who had answered, "Yes, I have a habit of setting myself regular, achievable goals," 25 years later, that 3% of students were earning and had earned more money than the entire 97% of students put together. And they tried to understand, why were they able to achieve so much more in this way? And it comes back to this one teaching. We have to learn that life mastery and self-mastery comes from mind mastery. And then the question becomes, what is that teaching that has the transformational power to help me to control my mind? I want to be very honest with you. I've been doing this experiment and I've been finding amazing results. I'm a little bit, conscious, a little bit aware, and I have found in my own life, I'm saying this in front of the deities, I have found in my own life one of the most powerful techniques that help me to aligned my mind has been reading the books of Krishna consciousness. These books of Krishna conscious spiritual wisdom, if one reads them attentively and regularly, they are having a subtle effect on your mind. And the teachings themselves explain this. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains how the human body is constructed. We have these senses, right? Touch, taste, etc. The eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, etc. Higher than the senses, Krishna says, is the mind. He says that higher than the mind is the intelligence. And he says, higher than the intelligence is what we truly are, which is the soul. So, if you want to control something at one level, you do it by going above to a higher level. In the same way, if you want to control the mind, you do it by going above the mind to strengthen the intelligence. If humanity, if each and every one of us were to read these Krishna conscious books of spiritual wisdom, especially the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and especially the Srimad Bhagavatam, you would control your mind, which would allow you to have mastery of yourself, and that would allow you to have mastery of your entire life. It's something that seems so simple, reading regularly. But the promise that is being made in Krishna consciousness is it will give you spiritual and life mastery. Just by this regular act. It's not enough to read. It's regular reading. Attentive reading. What happens in our daily lives is very dangerous. And it's dangerous because it's very subtle. When something is very subtle, you can easily miss what's really going on. But every day in our lives, every single one of us, you make, on a moment-by-moment basis, lots of small, seemingly small decisions which take your life in a particular direction. In other words, your decisions are making your destiny. Isn't it? Your decisions, every small decision you make is adding up. Every small decision you make is adding up and it's taking you somewhere. And for the majority of people in this world, because they're not empowered with the spiritual knowledge, they don't know where their decisions are taking them. Every single day, our decisions are taking us to our particular destiny. And there's two types of destiny. There's the destiny of the material world, and there's the destiny of the spiritual world. There's one destiny that is static. Material energy is like that. One destiny is static. Because the material world is like that. It's dead matter. Krishna makes that point. Bhumi apo nalavaya kamana buddhievacha ahankrityami bina prakriti stada. He says this material world is made up of dead matter. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, dead matter. So there's one destiny that's static. But there's another destiny that is ecstatic. Aperiamitas twanyam prakritim vidimepram jiva bhuta mahabaho yaya damdayate jagat. The soul, higher than all these material elements, there's you. The reason why everyone is after happiness is because it's your nature to be happy. You see? You and I, we're similar. Why are we similar? We have different bodies, different genders, but why are we similar? It's because we can't relate to being unhappy. We can't relate to being unhappy. The nature of the soul is to be ecstatic. And as long as we are in an unnatural situation, we'll never quite feel content. So it's just like the fish out of water. You can give the fish out of water money, a big bank account. You can make it famous, but it will never quite feel that contentment. Why? Because it's out of its natural situation. If we really understood this, then we would have this type of intelligence. Vyavasatmika buddhiya ekeha kurunandana. You see, what is it that makes you focused? What makes you focused is what makes you content, joyful, and truly happy. See? Focus is a result of ecstasy. That's the secret. Your focus is programmed by what you truly think is going to make you happy. That's how it really works. So there's an opportunity. If we want to have an ecstatic life, it begins with controlling the mind, and it begins with directing the mind towards Krishna. This is the secret. This is the secret of all success. So there was one very wise sage, and he lived in a kingdom, and in that kingdom, one day the king decided, because kings are very generous, so one day the king decided, tell all my citizens that today I will give a gift. Every citizen, whatever they want, I will give them as a gift. So the king's servants, they went throughout the kingdom and they told all the citizens, the king is generous. Maybe it was his birthday, I don't know. The king is generous. Whatever you want, the king will give you. You just tell us what you want, we will arrange for the king to give you. And they went throughout the kingdom. Different citizens were asking for different things. The king's servants, they reached the house of a sage. And they told the sage, the king's giving gifts, whatever you want, he will give. And the sage was very thoughtful. He closed his eyes for a moment. And then he told the king's servants, he said, I just want the king to come and visit me. And the servants, they were a bit taken aback. They thought maybe we've misheard him. Like, they said, look, did you understand what we were telling you? The king's giving a gift to every single member of the kingdom. Like, you can ask for anything. And the king and the sage said, yeah, I understood what you were telling me. I just want the king to come and visit me. The servants, they didn't say anything, but they thought, this guy's crazy. You can ask for anything. The king's giving everything away. And you're just asking the king, but okay. They didn't say anything. They were thinking this, but they didn't say anything. It's up to you. The servants went back to the kingdom, and back to the king's palace. And they were updating the king. Different people have asked for different things. They said that there was one very weird, strange sage. And he said that he just wants you to come and visit him. And the king was like, what? Did you explain to him properly that I'm giving a gift for everyone? They said, yeah, we told him. And he said that he just wants you to go and visit him. That's all he wants. The king thought it was strange. He thought it's a strange request. He can ask for anything, but he just wants me to come and visit him. Okay. But the king said, well, I did say whatever they want, I would give them. So he told his servants, arrange for me to come and visit this sage. So the servants started thinking, they thought, well, the king's going to visit this sage. The sage has requested it. The first thing that came to mind, they thought, well, the king is used to traveling along beautiful, scenic routes. So the first thing they decided is we have to make sure that we redo the road from the palace to this sage's house, make it very beautiful, attractive, because that's what the king is used to. So they started working on this. And then they started thinking, they thought, when the sage gets to when the king gets to the house of the sage, what if he becomes thirsty or hungry? You know, we have to make sure that the sage's house has the finest food, finest drinks, just because the king's used to that. You know, we've got to make sure that it's of the standard that he's used to. And then they thought, you know, when the king gets to the sage's house, what if he wants to take rest? I mean, he's used to very beautiful palatial environments. So we have to rebuild the sage's house to make it palatial and beautiful, so that when the king comes there, he feels comfortable because this is what he's used to. So they made all these changes. And then it struck them. Then they realized this sage is very, very smart. What he's done is, he said, all I want is for the king to come and visit me. But this sage, they realized he's very smart. He understood that when the king comes to visit you, everything that's associated with the king also comes. When the king comes to visit you, everything else that's associated with the king also comes. Why? Because when the king comes, his opulences also come. Why am I sharing this story? We look at this world right now and we see that there are all kinds of issues. We look at this world right now and there's people in poverty, there's depletion of resources. They say that the environmental crisis is an issue. And when we look at this world, as much as there is a poverty outside, there's an even bigger poverty inside, isn't it? When people feel deeply unhappy, depressed, anxious, sad, suicidal inside, and it's sometimes even the people who have the most outside. So there are two types of poverty, and Krishna consciousness, do you understand? Krishna consciousness can solve all of them. Two types of poverty. Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, he was in America. He was in one state in America, this was 1976, and the weather was bitterly cold, deeply cold. And the place that Prabhupada was visiting, that place was the slaughterhouse capital of America at that time. There was a place where they were killing so many innocent animals. And Prabhupada told the devotees, he said, if you can get them to close down these slaughterhouses, immediately the weather will change. We don't realize how much the atmosphere of the world, we don't realize how much the atmosphere of our life is due to the decisions that we've made in the past and the decisions that we're making in the present, and it's affecting our future. Prabhupada, when he said if they can close down these slaughterhouses, immediately the weather will change, it's symbolic for us. The more that we attune to Krishna consciousness, the more that everything in our lives will flourish. It will take care of the outer poverty and it will take care of the inner poverty. Just by this act of being Krishna consciousness, being Krishna conscious, which is achieved by chanting the names of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Just like the sage who asked the king to come and visit him. If you invite Krishna into your life by the chanting of the holy names and by the study of the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna comes, his energy also comes. So we have a tremendous opportunity in our lives to change the atmosphere of our lives. And by changing the atmosphere of our lives, you also contribute to changing the atmosphere of the entire world. So we want to encourage you. Just like this verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna is speaking about being focused, we want to encourage you. This Bhagavad Gita is a transformative teaching. Okay? There are teachings. Most of the world has teachings, but hardly anywhere in the world you can find a transformative teaching. This Bhagavad Gita is a teaching that transforms you. This Bhagavad Gita, if you come into contact with it on a regular basis, it will actually re-engineer your entire consciousness. We said this. Every one of us, where we are now in life, is due to millions, if not billions, of small decisions that we've made at different times in our lives. You make millions of decisions over your life. Am I going to go here or there? Am I going to say this or that? Right? Am I going to spend on this or this? We make millions of decisions. If you read this Bhagavad Gita as it is, it will empower your consciousness, because you won't even realize how you're making decisions which are more aligned with the soul, because the decisions you'll be making are guided by the super soul. And the voice of the super soul, is the voice of Krishna. The voice of Krishna is the voice of the Bhagavad Gita as it is. So please, I invite you to transform your destiny. Our decisions make our destiny. And when you read the Bhagavad Gita as it is and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, your decisions will make your destiny divine. The material world is static. The spiritual world, the spiritual destiny is ecstatic. And it can be achieved just by this regular study and this regular chanting. I've been experimenting. I can feel within myself that when I regularly read the spiritual literature, I can feel how my mind is more centered and more aligned. I can feel how moment to moment it makes it a little bit easier to make wiser decisions. Now, of course, I'm not saying I'm perfect. There's degrees of wisdom, So you can make a decision that's 1% wiser, or you can make a decision that's 5% wiser. You can make a decision that's 10% wiser. And when you make a decision that's wiser, it's just like when you're rowing, when you're on a ship, or when you're on a ship and you have the wheel of the ship. If you move the wheel even slightly, 1 inch, over time, it changes the course of your entire life for the better. So, if you are looking for a teaching that can transform you, if you're looking for a destiny that is divine, if you're looking for a life and a consciousness that goes from being static to being literally ecstatic, we invite you to regularly read the Hare Krishna literature, the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and we invite you, don't believe me, we invite you to experiment with this Maha Mantra. One last thing I'll say, there's a special relationship with the Krishna conscious books and the Krishna conscious chanting. There's a hidden relationship. When people engage in mantra meditation, they don't all get the same result. Why? Because when you chant the mantra, when you chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the result you get is dependent on how much time your mind touches the mantra. You understand? If I'm chanting but my mind is elsewhere, my mind doesn't actually touch the mantra. The mantra's here, my mind is here. But the more that your mind keeps touching the mantra, the more that your mind becomes transformed. So Krishna gives us a clue in this verse. If your mind is focused one direction because of the reading, then when you chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, your mind will spend more time with the mantra. It looks like you're both chanting the same amount of time, but it's something different is going on. There's a secret mystery going on. Your mind comes in more touch with the mantra, your mind gets more purified, and therefore you make more spiritual progress and you have more spiritual realization. So for those of us who are not doing this, here's an opportunity to transform and accelerate your spiritual life by regular reading so that you get more from your mantra, because your mind is more in touch with the mantra when you're chanting. So we'll stop there. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for allowing us to do this service. Bhagavad Gita as it is, ki jai. Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hare Hare Bol.